Let's look at these questions on finding whether two lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. Are the lines defined by the equations 3x plus 4y minus 8 equals 0 and 8x minus 6y minus 66 equals 0 parallel, perpendicular, or neither? So to do this, I'm going to be changing these equations into slope-intercept form so that I can get the slopes of these lines. So let's do that. So 3x plus 4y minus 8 equals 0. And I'm going to do the other equation at the same time. Let's convert the first one to y equals mx plus b. To do that, I'm just going to isolate y. So except for the y term, I'm going to be moving all the other terms to the other side of the equation, which is going to be 3x. When it moves to the other side, it's going to be negative 3x, and negative 8 is going to be positive 8 when it moves to the other side. To isolate y, I'm going to be, I have to move the 4 to the other side since it's getting multiplied here. When it's moved to the other side, it's going to be division. But I have to do that for each and every term that I have on the other side of the equation. So let's do that. Plus 8 over 4. So that's going to give me y equals negative 3 over 4x plus 2. So I have got the slope of the first line. Let's do the slope of the second line. The same way, I'm going to isolate y. So except for the y term, I'm going to be moving all the terms to the other side. It's negative 8x plus 66. So 8x, when it moves to the other side, it's going to be negative. And negative 66, when it moves to the other side, it's going to be positive. Now I have a negative 6 on this side, which needs to be moved to the other side because I need to isolate y. And negative 6 is getting multiplied. When I move it to the other side, it's going to be the opposite operation, which is division. So I'm going to divide negative 8 by negative 6 and 66 by negative 6. Let's see what I get when I simplify. So that's going to be, I'm just going to write it in simplest form. So I'm going to simplify that. So it's 4 over 3 x. And in here, that's going to be negative because I have one of the numbers as a negative number. So that's going to be negative 11. Let's see what the slopes are for this line. So M1, we're going to call it M1. That's negative 3 over 4. So the slope of the first line, we're going to let it be M1. And then the slope of the second line is M2, which is 4 over 3. So we've got both the slopes. Now, we know the relationships, based on the relationships between the two slopes, we can find whether these two lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So to do that, we need to know the relationships first of all. So if M1 is equal to M2, the lines are parallel. If M1 times M2 is equal to negative 1, they are perpendicular. So let's see what the relationship is between the M1 and M2 that we have here. They're obviously not equal because they have their different numbers. So I'm going to try M1 times M2. Let's see what I get when I do that. M1 is negative 3 over 4 and M2 is 4 over 3. 4 is going to go into 4 ones and 3 is going to go into 3 ones. So I'm left with negative 1. So it matches with my second condition. Therefore, the two lines are perpendicular. Great, let's move on to the next question. So this is, the second question is, are the lines defined by the equations 22 minus 14y plus 8 equals 0 and 7x minus 11y plus 14 equals 0 parallel, perpendicular, or neither? So I'm going to do the exact same steps that I did for the first question. So let me write the first equation. 22x minus 14y plus 8 equals 0. In the same way, I'm going to work with the other equation, which is 7x minus 11y plus 14 equals 0. So I'm going to isolate y. 14y. except for the y term, I'm going to be moving all the other terms to the other side. 22x is positive on this side. When it moves to the right side, it's going to be negative 22x, and 8 is positive, so that's going to become 8 negative as well, so negative 8. Now I have to isolate y, so I'm going to have to bring the negative 14 to the other side. Negative 14 is getting multiplied on the left side. When it moves to the other side, it's going to be division. So y equals negative 22 divided by negative 14x minus 8 divided by negative 14. So these two negatives are going to become positive. When I divide two negative numbers, the answer is going to be positive. And I'm also going to simplify. 2 goes into 22 and 14. So that's going to be 11 over 7 positive x. And that's going to become positive. That's going to be 4 over 7. So I have written the equation in y equals mx plus b. So let's call again the slope of this line to be m1, which is 11 over 7. And let's do the second equation. So I'm isolating y. 11y is negative 11y is equal to, when 7x moves to the other side, it's going to be negative 7x. And when 14 moves, it's going to be negative 14. Now I have to move the negative 11 to the other side. So let's keep the y, and since it's multiplication on this side, it's going to be division on the other side. So it's negative 11 over negative 7 over negative 11 x minus 14 over negative 11. So let's simplify that. So y is going to be equal to, since both of them are negative, so that's going to be 7 over 11 and x, and then that's going to be positive as well, which is 14 over 11. So we are just after the slope, so let's write the slope here, 7 over 11. So we can see that these two slopes are not equal. Let's see whether the second condition becomes true. So we just want to know m1 is not equal to m2. So if m1 is not equal to m2, they're not parallel. Let's see what m1 times m2 is. m1 times m2 is 11 over 7 times 7 over 11. So 11 is going to go into 11 ones, and 7 is going to go into 7 ones. So that's going to be 1. But for the perpendicular condition to be satisfied, we need m1 times m2 to be negative 11. So not perpendicular either. So they're not parallel or perpendicular. So the answer would be neither.